The Buffalo Sabres are holding on to dwindling playoff hopes. That and more coming up. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sabres Edge podcast presented by Nickel City Mafia. As you can see, we got a new little banner, so that's fun and exciting. Makes our gives a little spice to our show. And actually, I can see it's kind of overlapping with the background, so it might take it off, might leave it on. I don't know. Just having the logo there twice is.
Yeah, it's kind of messing me up.
I think we'll leave it off. We'll leave the background off for now. We still got the logos up there. What do you think, Timmy? Background on with this or background on without the overlay?
Without the overlay. I mean, the black is kind of sitting. Is kind of perfect for the funeral of the Buffalo Sabres season this year. So
all right, off to a positive start. Anyway. I'm your host, Sammy Stassi. I'm here with my co-host, Top Shelf, Timmy Corks. Timmy, how are you doing on this lovely Tuesday evening, if you will?
I'm doing well. Weight off my shoulders. I know what's going on with the rest of the season. So, no, I'm doing overall well. Kind of cold up here in Maine, but I heard in Buffalo it's pretty warm right now, right?
Yeah, so we actually have been getting throughout last week a fair amount of snow. It was cold for kind of the majority of my spring break here, and then it warmed up again. So back at school, back to kind of warm spring weather. So not much complaints there.
What is that big?
That's the big stitching embroidery, I think.
Oh,
the corner there.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. This was on when we got here, so we're learning this together.
That's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, the Sabres during the past week, I believe I'm trying to check what games actually counted as the past week. The Sabres during the past week went only 1-2, so it was not a great week for the Sabres, as you said, kind of pointing out that it's the black is fitting for what is the funeral of their season. But during their Canada or kind of like West Coast trip, they actually went 2-2. So for most times during the year, you'd be like, you know what, you go through Seattle, you go and then face the Canadian teams up there, and you go 2-2, and that's actually okay. You don't expect too much from those West Coast road trips. But in a dying season like this, when you need every single point and you're letting games slip by, like if in the Canucks game where you maybe could have gotten a point out of there, or in the Oilers game where it was very close right up until the end, it hurts to go 2-2, to go even on that West Coast trip. What?
2-3.
If you're counting the Red Wings game. But that's
a West Coast trip, and that was probably the biggest game.
Well, that was also the biggest game. That is not. I don't really consider that part of like the West Coast trip. They went out and they stayed by kind of like the northwest border for a substantial amount of time, and that did not include the Red Wings. But that is a tough game to lose. I fully concede that, but. Again, you go through that gauntlet of just like being on that West Coast, being far from home in different time zones, and you go 2-2 during the center of the season or during the middle of the season. You'd be like, that was probably pretty okay as an outcome. But right now, That one hurts. That is a tough trip that they just went on.
Yeah, tough pill to swallow. Sabres got everyone's hope up, and now, I mean, what is the saying? Water finds its level, and the Sabres of 2023, 2024 found their level again on this road trip. So, I mean, didn't even really play inspiring hockey throughout the whole entire road trip. That Calgary game was actually a 2-1 win. That wasn't a 4.
Yeah, that was a close win.
Yeah.
The Oilers win, it says 8-3, but it wasn't really.
No.
They picked up a lot of points after it was over in the ending times there, but like you still hate to see the team just give up on Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen there. That was the most disappointing one for me because it was just like you guys have I think they went into the third period tied or up one even.
Yeah.
They held the lead late in the second. You go into the third period and it might be tied or whatever. And there's just no like your season's on the line. There's no kick right off the gate. I watched that game. I stayed up for it.
Yep.
And they came out third period in a game that mattered, in a game that was tied. And they just looked meh.
Like they didn't care.
They should have been fighting for their lives. They should have been kicking and clawing like their playoffs depended on it because it did. Unless they're going to go on a 10-game win streak, in which case they still might not make it. So it did. Right.
Colored me shock if they go on a 10-game win streak. That Edmonton game is the epitome of their whole entire season, where even the second half of the season, you've only been winning because of UPL. And I wouldn't even put that loss on UPL because Sabres did not play any defense in the third period. Once they got that fourth goal, Edmonton, Sabres just lost all hope and just let everything come at them. I mean, Owen Power of old earlier this season started showing up again, just, trying to poke check away at guys, taking untimely penalties. Like this road trip, I mean, didn't really show well for Owen Power. And just the defense as a whole, that game was just, I mean, what a joke. I mean, here they are still trying to talk playoffs before the road trip. And it's just like, you guys don't care. You don't care. You don't have the energy. And then the fact that Granato, why didn't he pull UPL in the third period once they went up 2 goals, 3 goals? I mean, give the guy some dignity. Maybe get the team like, hey, you guys are playing terrible in front of this guy. So I'm going to put in the backup goaltender, and maybe you'll, play some sort of hockey at that point. But he didn't do that. He just left UPL to burn out there. And you could tell he was frustrated in his post-game press conference because, like he said, they were getting way too many open shots, the Oilers at that point, from very weird angles. And they were able to score because he hasn't been seeing those all season. The defense actually gave up this time around.
Yeah. Well, the very least for the Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen point, he came back during the Flames game, and that rage fueled him because that was definitely a certified Ukko-Pekka Luukka win because he posted a 970 right after posting a 795. So,
yeah.
And he got an assist, which that's at least fun. That's at least fun for our dying season. Yeah. Give him the Vezina now.
Yeah. I mean, the goalies on the road trip showed up this time around between UPL and Levi. Levi had a solid game against Vancouver. He kept the team in the game for the most part. So, if I'm going to give stars early, the goalies looked great so far. That's what I'm going to say. That's a foreshadowing to that.
The goalies definitely were looking good. But yeah, the team in front of those goalies maybe were a little more shaky. Again, even in that Flames game, right? Like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen had to post the 970 and get an assist for that team to win. So
yeah, no, definitely. He was the reason why they won that game again. I mean, you're playing the Flames. The Flames sold sold a lot before the deadline and even earlier in the season too. And they still had a competitive game against you. And you guys really, you didn't sell really anyone important. And you kind of maybe gotten better with Bo Byram. Or
You could argue we got better with who we got rid of too.
Yeah.
Except for Middlestat. Middlestat was an important part of our offense. But getting rid of Okposo and Eric Johnson, I don't think are detrimental to your team.
No. So, I mean, just for the Calgary Flames to have that type of game against you is pretty. I mean, I know the Sabres are bad, but still, you're better than the Flames. And you should be able, like, on paper, you look at both the teams. I mean, yeah, they still have who are they? Huberdeau, Uyghur, and
Kadri.
Yeah, you have Kadri. I mean, you have okay players, but no one to really just be like, whoa, like this is a great team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that stuck out too, I think it was back in the Edmonton game. Kane tried to call out Greenway, right? Like he was trying to go at it with Greenway, and Greenway just kind of skated away to the bench.
Yeah,
like, type of challenge type of thing.
I didn't see that. I kind of turned off the Edmonton game as it got a little more out of hand, but
yeah,
I didn't see that. I'm not too opposed to not wanting to fight there, honestly. Maybe it would have gotten the people or the team back into it, but Greenway's never been a fighter necessarily. He's a big body and he'll shove people, but someone trying to get him to answer the bell, I don't think he'll take. So
yeah, I don't know. It was just like the epitome of that game was just getting bullied all around. I mean, it was a sad show, and so
not a fun game is the moral of that story. It was not a fun one to watch.
No, it wasn't. So, do you have any takeaways from the Vancouver game at all besides Levi playing pretty well?
I mean, the Vancouver game felt exactly kind of how I thought it would.
Yeah.
As I said in the other show, as we were kind of previewing that game because it was on last Tuesday, it felt like a scheduled loss. You know, you're playing in the back-to-back. You're playing your backup goalie because you kind of wanted to secure the win in Washington. And Levi played well. Don't get me wrong. Like, Levi gave this team every single chance to win.
Yeah.
But that game, I think, was closer than it felt because they outplayed us the whole time. I was watching it and I'm like, this is how a team that's skilled and fast should be playing.
Mm-hmm.
They played with absolute confidence. They were making cross-seam passes that were connecting the sticks. They were taking just one-time shots. They were wreaking havoc in our zone. And not all of them went in. And a lot of that is to do with Devin Levi backstopping our poor team in front of him. But they were much better than us. They deserve that win. If we pulled out a overtime point from them, we would have been the luckiest people in the world. So I was just like, yeah, this is what I expected.
Yeah. But it was encouraging to see Levi play the way he did. I mean, to get that stunt down in the Amerks and then come back up to play in the NHL, even if it's for one game, and to show up and play that way and give the team a chance to win. I mean, kudos on him. I don't know. Did he get sent back to the Amerks already, or is he still up?
I do not know. Because they're trying to make the Amerks are trying to make their own playoff push. So
yeah,
I think if you're not playing Levi here, you may as well send them back down. The Amerks have recently acquired Anton Wahlberg, so he's down there in Rochester, getting ready to play some games, and that'll be exciting to see.
I did some. I watched some Sabres prospect YouTube or podcast this week with Chris Baker.
With Chris Baker, yeah.
So
I recommend him if you guys want to look at the more prospect side of it, because he does great work. He covers all the leagues, and it's a lot of information that you probably wouldn't get otherwise. So give him a look.
He's talking about prospects I never even heard of, but the ones I've heard of, there is a guy in our system that they need to try to get over, and we'll talk about that later about prospects if you're cool with that. Just because,
I mean, I don't think we particularly have too much to talk about. I have some trivia facts pulled up because that's the kind of week it was.
Yeah. That sounds good to me. You're testing my Sabres trivia again.
It's mostly just recent stats.
Okay.
But I think some of them are at least interesting or worth a little bit of a laugh.
Yeah. Did you I really after the Oilers loss, I just gave up looking at the standings and like the playoff push, and obviously playoff push beard has gotten shaved. It's over.
Well, so like
What are the other teams doing right now?
I would have loved to have stopped looking at the playoff standings or the like active standings because it would be good for my sanity. However, I do feel like as a content creator for Sabres content, it is kind of a little bit my duty to look at these things. So I have been paying attention, and it's doomed. No, I'm mostly just it is kind of doomed. Some teams are picking up wins. The Capitals have won their last two. They're in a game right now with the Red Wings, who have also picked up a few wins since we lost to them, I think at least. So we're 5 points behind the Red Wings. We are
last I checked, 7 points out of a wild card spot, right?
Yeah, 7 points behind the Capitals, who are at 79, and they have the wild card spot. The Capitals and the Red Wings are playing right now, so as long as one of those don't go to overtime is kind of what you're hoping for, because they are neck and neck with each other, with the Capitals having a game in hand against the Flyers. So you'd actually want the Flyers to win, but we don't. We want both of them to lose somehow. No overtime. The Flyers are playing right now, and that's a team you could catch. They have 81 points, but the thing with them is they've played the same number of games as us. So they are 8 points ahead of us. They've lost their last game. They're in a game right now, so if they lose, they've played another game in front of us, and they would only be still 8 points ahead. They're probably going to fall out to the Capitals, I think. So maybe we want the Capitals to win and not the Red Wings. That's a whole dynamic. We're trying to figure it out right now.
I would think you'd want... Yeah, I don't know.
I think at this point we might want the Capitals to just run away with that
spot.
And then because the Capitals are 7-3 in their last 10, the Flyers are 4-4-2 in their last 10. I think that your best chance is just hoping that the Capitals take that spot from the Flyers and that the Flyers plummet at the end of the season. The Red Wings, obviously, we still have to beat them, but we've got games against all three of those teams coming up in the final stretch of the season. So that's some losses that you can be personally handing out to those teams. So it's not fully doomed, but one, you're going to need to win out, basically.
I think they can only afford one loss.
I don't think you can. Look, you can't afford a loss because if you win out, you're not guaranteed a spot right now. That's where we're at right now. You have to win out. You have to win the next 10 games. That would be an 11-game win streak. I don't think we've gone 4. So
you're hoping Florida rests their guys the second last game of the season.
Yeah, you're hoping that you get that game. Just Florida being
Stars
like,
rest their guys. I know you think the Sabres can beat the Stars, but Stars are a pretty good team, so you have to wait for them to rest their team. Then you got the Maple Leafs, and the Maple Leafs are still trying to make their push and show that they're a real playoff team as well. Yeah, got a lot of teams that are improving grounds right now. The Sabres are, and then you, like you said, you're going against the teams that you are fighting for with that last playoff spot with. So it's gonna be a tough go for the Sabres at this point.
Yep. But around the league currently, as the games that we think matter based on what's going on is the Flyers are currently beating the Rangers 2-1, end of the second there. So Rangers, I rarely root for you, but guys, come on. You're the top of the Metro right now. And then the Red Wings are beating the Capitals, which again, I don't think that one matters too much as long as it doesn't go to overtime. You just want a clean result there. And then New Jersey ? I don't think we're looking at New Jersey, although technically they're in the same spot as us. They're tied with the Leafs right now. You're hoping not to have to worry about them. They would also have to go on a 10-game win streak to end the season. So
think about the Flyers. Do you think this is good for the rebuild process?
No. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
They're overperforming a little bit too early, I think. This is the kind of run that, or like not the kind of run, because if you're trying to be a serious team, you're not trying to be a bubble team. They're like goal differentials -8 right now. They're holding on to a divisional spot. That's how bad this wild card race is, by the way. Like anyone who's checking in on the East wild card race, it's abysmal.
Yeah.
We have some very good teams at the top of our divisions, but the bottom part here, the cumulative goal differential of the teams in the wild card race right now is over -50. So it's embarrassing. This is if we get in, it's on the backs of teams being terrible and not on our own power. But
I mean, so the reason why I'm thinking about this is because the Flyers lost their best prospect and Cutter Gauthier in that trade with the Ducks earlier this season. Now their best prospect, Matvei Michkov, who was actually compared to be him and Connor Bedard, were like, all right, maybe these guys are 1A, 1B, probably 1-2. That guy's not coming over from Russia for another couple of years.
Yeah.
And I mean, Philadelphia is really not. I mean, yes, you're competitive, but you're really not a destination right at this point. So you can have a good year this year and then just fall off the face of the earth. So it's very interesting. I'm very interested to see how their future goes with this team.
As important as, and we've seen failed rebuilds, right? As important as it is to make the playoffs, there is merit to rebuilding. You see teams like Minnesota, and I've talked about this before. I don't want to be a Minnesota-esque team where we're just kind of floundering.
Like you have a good season,
yeah, where you make the playoffs, but you're never a contender, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Minnesota's been a contender my whole life, maybe, and I don't know how many times they've missed the playoffs, but it hasn't been that many.
No,
they've always just kind of been the perennial, like, yeah, they're here. Hi, guys.
They're a pesky team sometimes.
Yeah, you're not going to do anything. Sorry to any Minnesota fans out there. But my point is, that's where the Flyers feel like they're at right now. They're not, with John Tortorella behind the bench, you're not committing to a rebuild. That's not what that is. Nope. Yet you managed to get a very good prospect in Matvei Michkov, who's going to come over in a few years. I would be looking to tank hard now, collect a bunch of prospects that will be good pieces for when Matvei Michkov actually arrives, and then you kind of build your super team from there and push out. Obviously, again, getting out of that rebuild is a hard task. We know that. But the end goal is to win a Stanley Cup. And right now, they're setting themselves up to be Minnesota. So, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with the philosophy, but they're at least in a playoff spot. So,
yeah. I mean, but they also don't have. I wonder what their playoff drought is right now, because they haven't been in the playoffs for a while, right?
I'm not sure. I think they made it recently I think they had a Carter Hart playoff run.
Yeah, and he's gone too. I mean,
yeah.
So they're really piling up a fast-moving stream. So, anyways, we're not a Flyers podcast, but I just want to think about that because, I mean, I guess the one benefit of the doubt is the Sabres do have a lot of prospects and good prospects. I mean,
as much as this season stings, I'm not worried about the future. I've said that the whole run of this whole podcast. This season sucks. It's terrible. I hate it here. But going forward, I'm not worried about this kind of core group of prospects. It feels like you can build something here. Maybe it requires a new coach. Maybe it requires a new GM, although I haven't thought that Kevin has done a bad job. I know that's kind of a controversial opinion right now. There's a lot of people who are upset with how it's been going. But I think he's done a fine job. I think we probably need a new coach before everything comes clicking together, but I think you can build with something here. I'm not worried about the future.
I mean, Kevin Adams, I mean, you've drafted pretty well. You've got a lot of good offensive players that you drafted. And the guy coming back today, Jack Quinn, I mean, a lot of people hinge the season on him. I mean, your head coach said, well, Jack Quinn out. So, I mean, if he's that good of a prospect, I mean, that was your first round pick. So good on him. And, I mean, the Bo Byram trade, to get that from Casey Middlestat, that's great too. So I don't have any problems with him. It's more like you said. It's definitely a coaching thing. Because think about it, when you're going into the next season, you got your 1 and 2 or 1A and 1B goaltenders. You at least have your top 3 defensemen, possibly top 4 if you resign Henry Jokiharju. And now it's just figuring out the mess that's forward and hoping some guys actually have some kind of bounce back from this season. You need Tage Thompson to bounce back from this season. You need that. You need Dylan Cousins to come back to life. You need Alex Tuck. I mean, yeah, you definitely need Alex Tuck. Alex Tuck has just had a slow year all year round. But you got to figure out your bottom 6 guys at least and fill those pieces in. So I guess a conversation that I had, it was on After the Whistle. You willing to trade the first round pick? No, was it After the Whistle? Or was it WGR? Either one of those. It was WGR. Trading that first round pick this year and seeing if you can get a veteran guy. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Are you down for that?
So again, the trio of guys that you get from the Jack Eichel trade sets off the official, like, this is another rebuild. This is a new rebuild. You get guys from Sam Reinhart, guys from Rasmus Ristolainen, and finally prospects from Jack Eichel's trade.
Mm-hmm.
Those pieces include, or like the kind of like cutoff for that line was, you have Yuri Kulik, Matthew Savoy, and Noah Ostlund. Those 3 guys are going to come into the league in the next few years, potentially 2 of them next year. I think we're probably going to see Ostlund in the AHL for at least a year. But my point being, you're trying to build up for that influx of, like, that's going to be the final one. You're going to have Levi coming in from the Reinhart trade. You're going to have Yuri Kulik from the Reinhart trade, Isaac Rosien's from the Ristolainen trade, and Ostlund is from the Jack Eichel trade. That's the core that you traded out to receive. That core is coming in. Your prospects and picks going forward can be used either. You can inject them into the lineup like we see with Zach Benson if you think that they're good enough, or they should be used to get you pieces that should supplement these incoming pieces that were the rebuild. I think you should be building around the current core plus what you got from those trades. And then the things that come after that should be helping you complete the roster, fill in those holes wherever they're needed. And that's, if your first round pick this year can help do that, it should be used to do that. Unless somehow we lottery into like Macklin Celebrini or whatever, in which case, no, keep him. unless you're getting a really good offer, but I don't know what you'd have to give me for that to work in my mind.
Connor McDavid, and he's resigning. Leon Draisaitl, and he's resigning for a long time. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Edmonton says no to that one, but it's a good thought.
I mean, they like their first overall picks, though. Edmonton, they always enjoy those.
True, they love having those. But
yeah, I mean, it was actually Chris Baker of the Sabres prospects talking to Matthew Fairburn about that. So
okay, yeah,
more guys that you actually know hockey pretty well. So that was an interesting conversation, and he also thinks Savoy's just going to be making. Chris Baker says Savoy's just going to make the NHL next year. He's going to line up with Benson, and they're just going to bring a new speed to the offense. This is another proposition for the team.
Okay,
I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, do you want to have this conversation? Because I think it's worthwhile. These are the guys that are the future.
I'm fine with that.
Right? These are. I said at the beginning of the year, like, this is what the new rebuild is. These are the guy I can't talk. These are the guys who are the future of the team. Yeah. So of those 3 guys, am least high on Savoy. I think that the way that Savoy plays is awesome. He's incredibly fast. He slinks into areas very well. He's creative as a playmaker. He can shoot pretty well. He can finish. Yep. Very high paced. Would honestly fit great on this team. That is last year. The way that the Sabres played last year, which everyone agreed was incredibly fun, that is Matthew Savoy's brand of hockey if you've ever seen him play. He would have fit perfectly onto that roster. There's a few issues with him. One is one that you don't like. It's the definitely not a tough guy, not gritty. He's going to be the guy on the ice that you need to protect, not the guy who's going to protect you.
That's not my number one thing, but keep on going.
He's a small guy. He's injury prone. And he's never going to find himself in a confrontation where he has the upper hand, because that's just not the game he plays. He's a very skilled guy. He's going to, as I believe it was Phil Kessel said, he's going to ham it up. He's going to hot dog on you. And he's going to get wrecked in the NHL. It is exactly what you hate about this team, personified in a single player, because he's going to get destroyed time and time again. And with the team that we have, no one's going to stick up for him. So in that regard, he does not fit what the team is currently doing.
No, he definitely needs his time in the AHL. That's for sure. I do like his speed. His speed is the biggest thing. And the way that he plays. The way that he plays, too, he does play in a way similar to Benson, where he will get in the gritty areas. But this is why he gets injured, is that he plays that way at a frame of 5 foot, basically, I don't know, 8, 7, a buck, 60 pounds. I mean, that's why I get injured, dude. So he definitely needs some seasoning in the AHL. So to expect him to come into the NHL next year is kind of crazy. But that was interesting to hear that from Chris Baker, because he actually still considers him the top prospect in the Sabres system.
And you know what? He's the guy who watches all of their games. He watches Kulik, he watches Savoy, he watches Östlund.
He watches the guy in Finland. I don't even know what his name is. He's a 5th round pick, but he's having a solid season too.
Exactly. The effort and work that Chris Baker puts into what he does is truly incredible. So he knows what he's talking about more than I do, right? At the end of the day, he knows what he's talking about more than I do. And I think at the junior level that Matthew Savoy is far and away the best of any of those players. I don't think that his game translates as well as Noah Östlund's does, as Yuri Kulik's does, although Yuri Kulik still has a lot of stuff he has to figure out. His defensive game is poor at best right now. Yep. And if you want to transition into the NHL, you can't just be a shot a la Victor Olofsson. So
don't need any more of those.
Yeah, you're going to need to round out your game before you're a real NHLer, but I can see him doing that. He's young. Sometimes that just takes time for these guys. He was never really expected to play that way in his on his former team, so he'll have time to figure that out and develop that part of his game. And when he comes into the league, he has a more mature game already than what Savoy's kind of high octane. It's spazzy is like how I see it. It's fun. It's incredibly fun. And when he does something, it's exhilarating. But a lot of the times he's a negative defensive impact, and it feels like it's a lot of stuff you could get away with in juniors. And I'm not sure when he gets to a better defensive league that he'll even have that kind of offensive spark.
Yeah, so he's a 20-year-old playing in a league that has 16-year-olds, so he should be playing the way that he is right now. It's way easier to play his style of game, like you mentioned, in the juniors compared to playing in the AHL. So he definitely needs some season in the AHL. So that was interesting to hear. But the one guy that I kind of like his game, and the Sabres really need to see if they can get him over to the U.S. He's our 2021 second-round pick, Prokhor Poltapov.
Okay.
Now, he's kind of similar in his situation in the KHL, where he's playing on the best team in the KHL. He's similar to I believe it was Isaac Rosen. He's like Rosen wasn't getting a lot of ice time in the Swedish Elite League, and the Sabres got pissed off and said, "Hey, we're bringing him over to US. We don't care. He needs to develop." Same thing's kind of happening with Poltapov, where he's playing in the KHL and their top. I don't know if it's Serie A or whatever it's called, the top league on the best team, and he's only getting like 8 minutes a game. So he's not really putting up stats, but he's been down to like their minor league team. He's been playing pretty well down there. But it's not about the stats I'm talking about. It's the style of way that he plays. And it's kind of almost like a Tkachuk type of player where he is not afraid to make contact. He's not afraid to run guys. And he skates pretty well. He's pretty fast. I mean, he has the offensive potential that he got drafted for. So there's still that he can develop in the U.S. But he's going to bring that physical tenacity that this team kind of needs. And kind of like that, he can almost be like a rat type of player. And he's intrigued me the most because Chris Baker had tape on him in that last it was his last Prospects Avenue. And just the way that the guy plays would kind of be is something that the Sabres, like I've been pushing for all year. They need that type of player. Now, he's not going to get into a fight, but he's going to be that annoying guy that's just going to hit you after, like you let go of the puck, and all of a sudden, here's this guy charging at you on the boards, like making you think twice about making moves with the puck or putting your head down that the Sabres don't have right now. So he's actually the one guy I'm most excited for when it comes to prospects and trying to get the Sabres over here because we have a lot of high-end skill guys. We already have that. We just need that new flavor in here.
I think, honestly, that part of our prospect pool gets overlooked a lot. I think we have some of those players. Like, we have some of those depth guys and fourth-line guys that get overlooked because we have such a high-end prospect pool. We've got a deep, deep prospect pool. On kind of that side, you got, like, Philip Cedarquist, who's kind of a bigger guy.
Yep.
There's another guy who recently ended up in the AHL. But Anton Wahlberg's a big guy as well, and he's you hope he can kind of be like an Alex Tuck type player, where he's like kind of big, fast, and can crash into things on the forecheck. I don't think he plays a more offensive style game like Tuck, where he's not necessarily going to be like the biggest bruiser and defensively sound guy, but that's something you can develop into a guy if you see it right.
But when he played in the World Juniors, a lot of his, because he played pretty well with Oslin, a lot of his goals came in front of the net.
Right.
He wasn't scoring from the outside. So that's another thing that the Sabres need. If you've got a guy like Wahlberg at his size, what is he, 6'3", 6'2", or is he 6'4"?
I don't know. I thought he was 6'4", but
I think he's 6'4". To have an offensive guy 6'4", he's like a bigger body type of guy too. He's a thick boy. I mean, to put him in front of a goaltender and have him pick up, dirty goals, that's something that the Sabres need too, because that's another complaint about this team. All their shots come from the outside. They need to get a coach with a mentality and a player that's not afraid to go on the net and trying to score goals just off of rebounds.
Yeah.
And
by the way,
sorry,
I didn't mean to cut you off, but Olivia Nejo, that's he's playing in Rochester right now. I think he was hurt for most of the season though, but he's
sent down.
He just got sent.
Man.
Oh, I guess he's not playing that well, but he's a like 6'2", big body, young guy.
Yeah.
And I think he plays a kind of grittier game that we don't have too much of on our current NHL roster. But I did not know that he got sent down recently. That's bad shot by me, I guess.
Yeah, I think because the Oilers game was Friday. Yeah. Was it Friday? Yeah, Friday.
I don't know.
So on Saturday, I just let's just look at Sabres prospects and see how guys are doing. So he just got sent down. But to go along with more skill guys, I mean, Victor Neuchev, who's in Rochester right now, had a slow start to the season, has been picking up this second half of the year. We got another skill guy down there. Another big defenseman, too, in Novikov. He's having a pretty good season as well.
Yeah, and he's a young guy. It kind of shocked me. He was like one of the youngest KHL guys.
Yeah.
And we drafted him, and I was like, okay, if you're 18 and playing in the KHL, there's obviously something there. And he's come in, and he's played pretty defensively well here in North America.
Yeah.
The biggest knock on him, at least from like the times I've watched him, is that he needs some skating lessons because he's a big dude and he'll crash into you if he can catch you. But
Yeah.
that's sometimes not always the case. He can still use his body to like cut off angles because he's good with his stick. But if someone's moving at him with speed, he can struggle to adapt and move with them.
Yeah. So, and he's, like you said, he's a young guy, so he's going to take some time to develop. And the Sabres afforded themselves time with their defensive prospects too, with signing Bo Byram. So, it's I mean, we complained that they didn't have a deep defensive talent, but now with Byram, you can have some time to still reload down there as well. Yeah, and another big offensive body is that Maxim Strabik, who plays for Michigan State right now. I mean, he's having a decent season for his rookie year. We probably won't see him for a couple of years still, but what's his overall stats? They don't have I know the last 10 games. So 10 games played, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. So pretty good. I mean, he's 18 years old, playing in Michigan State, not a top overall, and he's a defenseman, so he's playing pretty good there as well. Yeah. So,
you know what? I think the moral of the story is that the scouting staff has done pretty well for us, and our drafting has been pretty good.
Yeah. Good enough that Carmano's actually got interviewed for the Oilers GM job.
Yeah. I hope that we can keep him around because it seems like he's done a great job for us. I really do like that we have what feels like a real analytics team, and we're looking at things like obviously Don Granato had input into the Greenway trade, but ultimately it was also a lot of the analytics team looking at that and being like, this is a player that is very defensively sound and is having a down year right now, so you can buy low, and we did, and he bounced back this year, and it's looking like that was a great deal to have made.
Yeah.
So,
did you watch the embedded for the Sabres for the trade deadline?
Not yet. I saw that it came out, but
okay.
I have not yet watched it. I guess you could spoil it for me if there's something important to talk about, but
no, nothing too crazy. What he expected. I mean, Kevin Adams laid it out, just having his conversations with Okposo. And once Okposo was traded, his first call afterwards was, after talking to Okposo, obviously, was talking to Rasmus Dahlin. So that kind of shows, how much sway Rasmus Dahlin has on in this franchise, and kind of tips the hat to probably who's going to be the captain for next season.
Yeah.
Some people want Dylan Cousins. I mean, he's kind of young. I mean, he hasn't. I don't know.
I think the allure of Dylan Cousins is that he's a heart and soul guy. He really puts his emotions out on the line there, and you see it. You see the frustration. You see the joy with him. You see him willing to stick up for teammates, even if it means his face is going to get caved in.
Yeah.
And it's that emotion is oftentimes what we're asking for, but I'm not sure. I would put an A on him. Like, he seems like going forward the kind of guy that should receive an A.
Yeah.
He seems like kind of, I don't know. Maybe when Gergensen is no longer on the team, he'll inherit that A. But I do think that it's probably Dahlin's captaincy going forward.
Yeah, I mean, Dahlin has a fun personality. I mean, he's kind of like, I mean, he's a Swede.
Right.
Not the most exciting guy in the world.
Also, it's like, it's hard. This is a guy who knows enough English to get by, but like, it's definitely a struggle. It's not something in some of the mic'd ups or just where you have like footage of practices earlier in the year or earlier during his 10 years of Sabre. There was video of him asking like, what does that mean? It's like there's a language barrier, right? But he's definitely the kind of guy that leads by example. He doesn't need to say much to show that he's going out there every single day. He's working incredibly hard, and he's having solid on ice results. He's our leading point getter at the moment. So
he had a nice goal against Vancouver, the only goal. So
Yeah.
he shows up every game, and that's all that matters. And that's what you have to have. I mean, out of all the guys, yeah, he's had a down year, but his down year is on the hands of the rest of the team having a down year
Yeah,
because
like
he's
he's
not getting a lot
not
of
racking up
assists.
a ton of assists because we're not racking up a lot of goals.
Yeah, so it's really not his fault that he's having his down year, and he's having a solid season overall. And like you
Yeah.
said, he comes in every game and plays. You can tell he plays with his heart, and he still has the energy every game, even when we're basically out of the playoff race. So no, I mean, but yeah, that was the one tidbit. So everyone's kind of like, oh, we kind of know who the captain's going to be next year. And then the other part was Granato showed up after the trade, and he was talking. Kevin Adams was talking to him, like checking in on the room and stuff like that. So, kind of shows, I mean, that Granato and Kevin Adams, like, there's no splintering between the two. Like, they work together on things. So,
Yeah.
I know that's always a question with the GM and coach, whether they're two separate entities or they work together. So, I mean, Kevin Adams and Don Granato work together, so it's going to be hard to see a huge coaching change this offseason, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, anyway, taking a moment to address the chat, Doge says that we must beat Washington Capitals 2x, technically an 8-point swing. Yeah, in our final 10 games, we have the Devils, who, we talked about them technically being in the race still, but yeah. We have the Capitals, the Flyers, the Red Wings, and then the Capitals again. So that is 4 games against teams ahead of you. That is the only little bit of thing where someone could like cling on and say, hey, you know what? It might not be over. However, again, it only matters if you win those games.
Yeah.
By the end of this week, we could be having a conversation where like we're eliminated already, right? Like that is kind of the situation we're in right now. And we still have multiple weeks left. So
yeah.
It only matters if you win your games.
And like you said, Sabres have to win out just to maybe have a chance. So,
yeah.
I mean, this is a big week coming up. So, I mean, you have your next game is against Ottawa. And that's another game you still got to show up for because Ottawa, I think did they just beat the Red Wings recently?
I don't know. I sure hope they did.
They
just beat the Oilers.
The Oilers
on Sunday.
Yeah. So I mean,
we can never.
They're not playing bad hockey, so they're still inspired to win. I guess
they've gone full spoiler mode. They're exactly the kind of team that plays spoiler. They're underperforming this year. They have a lot of talent. They could maybe they could put up a fight against any team, but it's just not their year. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, no trap games. You have to win every game. And
yep. You have to show up every game prepared to fight for your life.
Mm-hmm. No. This is why I can't. I mean, this is why I'm out. I just think the Sabres are out because now we're talking 8-point swings and having to beat teams. And
yeah.
It's tough.
It'll be nice when we know for sure, and I hope it's nice on the side of being in, right? But I don't know that I can, for the remainder of the year, stake my happiness on every game. So being a little bit mentally detached is probably the way to go about it. But if you're not, winning would make it so much sweeter. But
I mean, the trying to figure out the math for me to make the playoffs is kind of like over with. I'm still going to watch the games.
Right.
I can't there's no more late night games, so I don't have to watch highlights anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
If I miss anything, I can watch.
Our latest game is 8 p.m.
Yeah, so I'm going to watch the games. I'm going to enjoy them while I still can. And then after that, try to enjoy them and try to enjoy the Sabres play hockey. But yeah, it's kind of just, I hashtag done the Sabres back in like the end of January. So I kind of have to stick by my hashtag done for the Sabres.
All right. That's fair. That's fair. But you know what? As Doge points out, 4.5% chance.
Mike brought this up with the Buffalo Bills because they were at like what 8% or whatever to make the playoffs. This team doesn't have a Josh Allen type of player. That's all I'm going to say.
You have Rasmus Dahlin. You have Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. What more do you need, Timmy?
A guy who scores goals.
Ooh, that's true. On that note, you want to play a little game?
Let's play a game.
Do you know who the youngest player in the NHL outside of our team is?
So it's one of the rookies.
Right. This isn't a trick question. This is pretty easy, I think.
Bedard?
It's Bedard. Bedard is the youngest NHL player currently, besides Benson. Benson's actually technically, I think, a few months younger. Do you know who the oldest forward in the NHL is right now? This probably is a little harder because there's older guys around the league.
East or Western Conference?
West.
Oh, I wasn't thinking West. All right, interesting. I'm literally going through it's not, nope, Kopitar's not that old. Doughty's not that old.
Doughty's a defenseman as well, I think.
Yeah.
Unless I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh, you said a forward. I'm sorry.
I said forward.
I'm just trying to think of old players at this point. No one on Seattle. No one on Edmonton. Canucks don't have anybody. Trying to think of goaltenders. There's no goalies. It's forward.
Yeah. Do you want another hint?
Yes.
Well, they don't currently play for San Jose. That is where they played most of their career. They played over.
Oh, Joe Pavelski?
Joe Pavelski.
For the Stars, right?
Yep. For the Dallas Stars.
Huh.
Do you know how many points each of these players has? Or like roughly?
So they probably have around the same points.
They have roughly the same points. It's like four apart.
I want to say around 55.
You're right on the money. 55 is how many Connor Bedard has, and 59 is how many Joe Pavelski has. How many players on our team have more points than either the oldest or youngest player in the league right now? You would be correct. The answer is 0. How many points does our highest point getting forward have right now?
Oh, highest point getting forward. Oh,
because I'll be perfectly honest with you. It gets more embarrassing when I tell you that Rasmus Dahlin has the most points on our team right now at 52. So that's you're below that bar. Which of our forwards and how many points?
Oh my gosh. I don't think it cracks 40. This
is an embarrassing game to play, but
35.
It does crack 40.
It does.
It's
42.
Yeah.
42.
And it is which player? No looking at chat.
Oh, really? That's it was the last second. I thought it was a guess. Is it really Tuck?
It is Tuck.
What?
It's Alex Tuck with 48 points. That's where we are at the 72 game mark of this season.
How is Tuck the leading?
Alex Tuck
forward?
leads our forwards with 48 points.
God.
By the way, shout out Sam. You got that one.
Sammy V.
Alex Tuck leads our forwards at 48 points. Do you want to take a shot at who's next? It's a 2-way tie.
Is it Paterka and Skinner?
Nope.
Oh boy.
You got one of them right. You got Skinner right. Skinner's in that tie.
Oh man. Is Cousins up there in the 30s? This has to be in the 30s.
No.
Really? Oh, so then it's definitely not.
It's not Cousins. Cousins. We're still in the 40s, and Cousins is in the 40s, but it's not Cousins.
I'm trying to think. It can't be Tage. Is it Tage?
It's Tage. Tage has 45 points. This is the kind of season we're having. Rasmus Dahlin leads the way with 52 points. followed by Alex Tuck at 48, Jeff at 45, Tage at 45, JJ at 44, Dylan at 41. All of those you could say, you know what, down seasons, okay players, it's whatever. Except for Darlene, who's doing well given the fact that no one is scoring for him.
Yeah.
And then there's a huge drop off as Owen Power is your number 7 point getter at 28 points.
What?
Yeah.
I thought it was crazy because Tuck had such a terrible first half of the season that he's a leading point getter right now. And then Tage was out with that wrist injury, and now he's second for forwards.
Yep. If you like
forwards was out for long too.
Forwards that have less points than Owen Power at 28 include Jordan Greenway, Zach Benson, Victor Olofsson, Peyton Krebs, Zemgus Jurgensons, Eric Robinson, Tyson Jost, and Lucas Rushik.
Okay. I mean, the guys underneath him makes sense, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Benson, I didn't expect that many points out of him this year. Greenway, I mean, he's going to be a 20-point guy. I don't think he might crest like a 30. He's not going to have a Sam Reinhart season scoring 50 goals.
Hey, you know what? He's only played 59 games this year. He's on pace for like 30-ish, maybe even 35. So
he's only played 59 games this year?
Yeah, he got hurt partway through. A lot of players got hurt throughout the year, including Tuck, Skinner, Thompson. JJ actually is the only player who's played 72 games for us this year. So, points pace-wise, I'll give you the first two. It's still Rasmus Dahlin and Alex Tuck. Who's third in points pace?
I'm just going to assume Peterka. I hope it's Peterka.
It is not Peterka, but Peterka played all the games.
That makes sense.
He's at 44 points. He's below 5 people,
Dahlin.
And he's played all the games. Dahlin and Tuck are number one.
Greenway?
It's not Greenway.
Tage?
Nope, it's not Tage.
Oh, wow. Skinner?
Not Skinner.
I don't think it's Cousins because he's
to me, this one was a fun question. So like it might not be someone you really
think of. It's not Cousins. It's not gonna be Benson. It's not Greenway. Olofsson?
It's not Olofsson. They are currently important in the Buffalo Sabres news cycle.
Well, not Byram. Who else is there?
They have 12 points in 17 games.
Who's played 17 games? Not Tyson Jost.
Jost has played 36. Wow, I didn't know he played 36 games for us, honestly.
Who the heck has played 17 games? Not Lucas Rusek. Well, he hasn't touched that many games.
Lucas Rusek has played 9. Come on, you got this. They are currently like important in the Buffalo news cycle. We talked about them earlier in the podcast.
Oh wow, I'm really flatlining right now. They're important in the Buffalo news cycle, Sabres,
or the Sabres news cycle. Like currently, it's like pretty recent news.
It's not Gergensons.
It's not Gergensons. Gergensons has played several more than 17 games. But they have the same amount of points at 12.
Not Robinson.
No. Come on, I believe in you. You got this.
And they're currently they're up on the roster right now.
Yes. They haven't spent any time in the minors. The reason that they've played 12 games is due to injury.
Oh, Jack Quinn.
Yeah,
wow.
It's Jack Quinn.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, he was almost at the point per game pace at that time. Right?
So he was 12 for 17, but if you extrapolate that to the rest of the year, he was on roughly a 60-point pace. Which, by the way, comes back from an Achilles injury without an offseason, hops right back into the season, and gets 12 points in 17 games. Jack Quinn's going to be good. Give Jack Quinn some time to actually acclimate, have an off season, play a full season, Jack Quinn is going to be good. I like the guess with the new guy, Bo Byram. Unfortunately, I don't have his like just Sabres stats. I have like
his Colorado stats.
The Colorado stats and the Sabres stats.
Yeah.
Hold on, I can pull this up too because actually it might be him. But yeah, so Bo Byram as a Buffalo Sabre has 6 points in 9 games.
Nice. Sorry.
Thank you. Which is a 54-point pace. Very good. And especially as a defenseman, very good.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that falls a little bit shy of Jack Quinn's pace.
I mean, what could have been? What could have been? What could have been if we maybe try to sign a guy to replace Quinn while he's injured too? Anyways.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to him. I mean, do you get the old line back together? Him, Cousins, and Paterka?
That's what it sounds like was happening back in the practice today. I don't know if you saw, but he could be in the game tomorrow. So that's very exciting and imminent. They were saying basically if he's not in tomorrow's game, he's going to be in the next one. So
they're playing him tomorrow.
Jack Quinn's back.
Yeah. They never said what his actual injury was, right?
It was something to do with the knee. I don't know if you remember watching that game. You could see it. Like it was a terrible looking injury.
Yeah.
So
I remember the hit and everything because it was like that spinorama where he went
where he kind of just like bent into the boards and his knee got caught and it's like,
yeah,
that's terrible. But I think it was in a Rangers game too. So
yeah. Well, exciting. I mean, that's a guy I look forward to seeing next season. Like he's actually the excitement for next season. And maybe we can get these guys. We don't need to career years next year. We just need to have better seasons next year.
Yeah, we know that with everyone having a down year, we're a bubble team, except for Luukkonen. Okay, very big distinction because we've been carried pretty hard by goaltending down the stretch here.
Yeah.
So, like, we're not actually a bubble team right now. Luukkonen is just playing Vezina caliber. Yeah, Luukkonen's the bubble team right now, but we are not. But with just the goaltending piece in place, this is a bubble team. So if you can improve on what you've done this year, which is literally a down year for every guy as we just went over, you can only go up from here, right? Surely. Oh, I just said something I shouldn't have. You can only go up from here.
No, I think so. I mean, hopefully you're not starting the season with a 3 goalie rotation. Please, Kevin Adams,
surely you don't
trade for John Gibson or any other veteran burnt out goaltender that a team's trying to offload.
Yeah.
They don't need that. I mean, if you want to keep Levi down the AHL, I mean, I don't think you should. But if that's like your true intent, then I don't know. Do you just keep Eric Comrie and be that goalie that kind of just he's there for practice, but he called Levi up when he really needed a goaltender to come up and play?
I think next year you probably see a Devin Levi and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen 1 and 2, where Levi is the 1. Or Luukkonen's the 1. Sorry. They're both L names. It's hard, okay?
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing to keep straight in my mind. The Rangers are beating the Flyers. It's all very exciting.
Who's the 1A for the Bruins? Is it Swayman or Allmark?
I believe that it's Swayman at this point.
Yeah.
The Boston Bruins have definitely played more like 50-50 with their goalies.
Yeah.
Because they have 2 very good goalies. But this year, Swayman has already played 39 games. So I'm going to work on the assumption that this year he's the 1A. But it's really close to like a true tandem.
Yeah.
For them.
Another question for Luukkonen. I guess we can kind of have, we're already kind of having off-season questions. And I'm sure we'll talk about it more. RFA. Do you take him are you taking the arbitration on a 1-year deal, or are you getting him like a 3-year deal and then riding that out?
I'm hoping you can sign him to a 5x5.
Yeah.
Who says no to the 5x5? Us? Him?
maybe him.
Yeah, but even that's a maybe. He's had one good year.
Yeah,
In arbitration, he's not getting 5. He's getting 3.5, 3.25. He's had
probably.
one good year. It's a very good year, but he's had one good year.
Yeah.
5x5.
Okay.
I think that's, for me, I'm comfortable with that. If he doesn't pan out on a 5x5, if it turns out this was a flash in the pan and he's not actually a true number one goaltender that he's shown he can be this year, I think at $5 million, you're like, you know what? That was a cost. That was worth it because we need a goalie. We didn't pay Olmark, and that got away from us. That was an issue. That was a point of contention for a while here in Buffalo.
Especially after you saw him win the Vezina last year. But his first year in Boston wasn't a great year, though.
No, he definitely took a little bit of time to adjust. And we were like, okay, we see it. And then he won the Vezina, and we're like, okay, wish we had him.
Yeah.
But
so the other question then is Levi's an RFA next year. Do you do a 5x5 with him too and have 2 goaltenders on 5x5s?
No, you do the same thing that Boston did. You take him to arbitration.
All right.
You delay it a little bit further and down the line before signing him. That's probably right. Just as you're managing contracts.
Okay. Just another off-season question that I had.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll definitely get more into that during the offseason, but
yeah, we'll talk more. But I guess, did you have 3 stars for this week at all, Sam?
My first star with a stellar performance of a 795 save percentage during one of his games. I'm giving it to Luukkonen. He didn't lose us that game.
Yeah.
And he definitely won us that Flames game, along with getting his first career point, I believe. So that's good for you. You're continuing your good play. Your team let you down for a period there, but we don't have to talk about it. It was one period. They got 5 goals. We forget that happened.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to give another one to Levi. He comes up. He's called upon to play in his first NHL game in months now. And he shows up. He said he takes the opportunity to say, hey, guys, this is the guy that you thought I was going to be start the year. And I can still hang at the NHL level. So that's encouraging. More than anything, he gets that star just for being encouraging.
Yep.
It helps. It helps when you're grasping at straws, when you have dwindling playoff hopes, as our title suggests. And then I'm going to go with Rasmus Dahlin. You can never really go wrong with the Rasmus Dahlin pick, our leading point getter. He had 2 goals in that Vancouver game. He's just been solid all around. Didn't get any points, but was +2 in the Calgary game. Like, he's just our workhorse. And, yeah, our next captain. So, happy to see him still putting in effort going down the stretch, even though it's bleak.
I like it. I like those. My stars, same. My first 2 are the same exact people. It's UPL, Levi, great performances. Not going to say, I'm not going to add anything more that you did. My third star goes to the fans who watch that dog shit hockey on the West Coast. And that's all I'm going to say. That good on you, people. I'm not one of those people. I do not get a star, Sam. You've watched that hockey. You get a star. I don't get a star. But those fans have watched it. Good on you. You're better than some people. Better than most people. You're better than me. So congratulations. And I hope the Sabres can make back that time for you next season, because they're going to be an exciting team next season. I'll write that down right now on permanent marker.
All right. Well, we've gone over our 3 stars, and the Sabres are playing games this week. 4 of them. I guess one of them's on Tuesday against the Capitals. So we're going to be casting during that one. I just need to make sure because I might be going to that game. So while I try and figure that out, Tuesday, April 2nd. Yeah, I'm going to that game. So we'll probably see you on Wednesday. We'll figure that out, but we won't have a show on Tuesday because I'll be going to that one. So the next time we talk to you, there's probably going to have been 4 games played as part of a very long 5-game homestand for the Sabres before we close out the season. The first game is against the Senators, and that is tomorrow. Jack Quinn probably returning, hopefully returning. Then on Friday, we face the Devils, and, don't give them the opportunity to to make the underdog run. That's ours. We're taking that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Then on Saturday, we got the Leafs. Again, all of these are at home, so I'm not clarifying, but Saturday we got the Leafs. That's a
that could be an away game for the Sabres, though.
Yeah, that's probably an away game. Unless we win the last 2 games, in which case we might see some pretty good turnout.
Yeah.
Then on Tuesday, April 2nd, we have the Capitals, which I will be attending, and I'm hoping by then we still have a season to play for, because that will be an important game, given that we win the other 3.
Yeah. Or I could see Ovi score a goal.
Yeah, or you could see Ovi get closer to the record. He had a very slow start to the season, but it seems like he's really managed to pick it up, figuring out how to score again in his old age.
Yeah.
Honestly, just for the sake of hockey, like, I'm not the biggest Ovechkin fan, but for the sake of hockey, I would love to see someone chase and break one of Gretzky's records, because for the longest time, those have felt really untouchable.
Yeah. You have Ovi now, and then Austin Matthews, if he keeps on the rate that he's going at.
Yeah, he's at quite the pace right now in his young career, and obviously one of the big questions that you're going to be asking is just longevity, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's all we really had to talk about.
How many goals is he at?
Matthews?
Yeah.
I think he's at like I don't know. I if I had to guess, I would say like 5 something.
No, I mean goal. I mean just it's goals this season. Sorry.
Oh, goals this season. He's at 58.
Huh. You think he makes 70?
Oh, I was really wrong. He's at 357. I overshot that a lot. I'm not sure he makes 70. I'm betting I'm 67. 67 is where I'm putting him by the end of the season. Which is still wickedly impressive, by the way. Like, 67 is nothing to scoff at. That is in the modern NHL, that is beyond elite.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's crazy to think, like, back in the days, 70 goals for some of these guys was like a simple thing to do. I think Brett Hull has 70 goals. I mean, he's a good hockey player.
Oh, I forgot to ask you one more of those stats question from earlier. This one I really find amusing. This one. So we all know how we feel about plus minus. It's a bad stat, but it's useful to compare against people of the same team. So
yeah,
we've talked about this before. We've been amused by the fact that Henry Yokiharu is our plus minus leader at plus 15.
Yeah.
And for a team that has a goal differential of 0, plus 15 is pretty good. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good spot to be standing at. Who is our second place plus minus leader? At plus 13. And by the way, the next closest person is plus 8. So this is like far and away the second place in plus minus.
I know Darlene's in the negative, or he's in the single digits of plus minus.
You are correct. He's in the negative.
Yeah. It's not Jacob Bryson.
Jacob Bryson is. Can I sort this by plus minus?
Is it Power? He was in the positive for a while this season. I think it's Power.
Jacob Bryson and Owen Power are both plus 4.
Oh shoot! All right. Forward or defense? Well, I've already pretty much picked all our defensemen, so it has to be a forward.
Do you want me to answer that question?
It's a forward.
It's a defenseman.
All right, so Clifton.
It's Connor Clifton.
Wow.
At plus 13.
I mean,
That's one of the ones where I saw that and I was like, I thought you were doing terribly at this stat. Like, I thought this was not going your way.
no.
And again, it wasn't at the beginning of the year. He's acclimated very well. As we've talked about in previous shows, we don't have any issue with the way he's been playing recently. If he's your third pair defenseman, you're sitting pretty well. And I think we will be. I don't think that it's Jacob Bryson is the guy of the future. But if your third pair is Johnson and Connor Clifton, not the Johnson he started the year with, but the other one, then you're doing pretty well for yourself. So just a little bit of love going out towards Connor Clifton, because neither of us would have ever expected that.
Especially at the first half of the season. It's like, for some guys, the second half of the season, magic turned on, and they're just like, oh, yeah, I know how to play hockey. I know how to play defensive hockey within the system. So,
yeah,
good on you.
Another, I mean, just like it's not – I'm not going to ask you this one. I'm just going to let you know. When we talk about plus minus relative to the team, because that's the only way it's important, we take guys like Tyson Jost, who's played 36 games. So he's not even playing the majority of the games. He has the lowest plus minus on the team at -9. This guy for us this year has been a black hole when he's on the ice. That is not a player you want to see touching the ice, because it will result in bad things happening. And by the way, 4 points in 36 games with a -9. Thank you. Bye. We're done.
I think his Amerks stint wasn't that great either, from what I heard. I heard he wasn't playing good in the AHL.
I don't think he particularly made himself stand out, but that's it makes more sense. Like, again, we're not doing great this year. If you've played 70 games and you're a -9, that's not that bad, right? But you've not played that many games, and when you're playing, you get 10 minutes of ice time. How are you managing to get scored on so much while you're on the ice that you're barely on? So
you played first line center for a couple of games back in December.
Tyson Jost, you were a failed experiment, but you had
a good second half of the year last year. I mean, good for him, relatively good for him.
Right.
That's why I'm just in his terms. This year has just been Thanks, man.
Thanks, Tyson. Thanks for your service. I hope not to see you next year.
Thanks for letting us hit the capped floor. That's all that matters.
Anyway, that's about it for us. Before we sign off, just going to give you a quick recap about what's happening around the league for those who still care. It's about worst case scenario right now. Flyers are going into overtime with the Rangers right now, so they've picked up a point. That one Capitals Red Wing game that we said, what was the one condition?
They both want to lose.
Well,
don't go into overtime.
Don't go into overtime.
You went into overtime?
4-3 Capitals win in overtime. We also decided that we probably want the Red Wings to win. So, that's not great. Penguins, if you still consider them in the race, they just won 4-1 against the Hurricanes. Devils, if you consider them in the race, they're up 4-3 against the Leafs. This has been a worst case scenario outing for the Sabres. Let's hope tomorrow's better.
Yeah, Sabres gotta win. Just focus one game at a time. Game at a time.
One game at a time. 10 games to go. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you guys next week, hopefully. Or sometime next week. Wednesday. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Next Monday. Next Monday. Sorry.
Yep. Thank you so much, and good night.